Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get it started. And people joining, obviously, you're just going to miss my good morning and introduction of myself. So I'm sorry. But good morning, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. In case you're not sure who I am, my name is Elise Fry, and I'm the Director of the Health Plan Options here at URL Insurance Group. Feel free to reach out to myself or anyone on my team for any group health assistance or just group assistance in general. For some quick housekeeping items, I just want to let you know that resources are available for downloading in the handout section. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A tab. We'll be answering accordingly. During the webinar, there will be a poll or two, and when those pop up, we hope that you participate. And now that we have all that out of the way, I'm excited to have John Troutman here. He's going to start this 4-part series of Turnkey Solutions for your employer groups. John's the Director of Business Development with PES. So without further ado, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Elise. It's always a great privilege to work with URL. I just so appreciate it. I want to thank Deb, Thomas, and you again, Elise, for this opportunity. I'm very passionate about finding solutions, and we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. At least we're going to wait a little bit to do that poll. If you're okay with that, I'll just give you a cue in a couple of minutes. That way, if we get a couple of stragglers, they can be participating in that as well. Just want to give you all a little bit of background about myself before we jump in here. I've been in this industry of benefit space for over a decade, probably 12 years. I was at Mazzetti & Sullivan EAP. I've had many different roles, different titles. Was also CEO at a company, at an agency down in South Florida. Many of you might know me from LinkedIn and also a social media influencer there. But in all the different roles and all the different places, I've always been the same person, and that's a solutionist. I love providing solutions to groups. I love helping groups be better, feel better. And I'm trying today, my goal, my number one goal is to raise a small army of solutionists through URL. So imagine if you could increase the revenue, if you could lower operational expenses, and provide a better solution and improve efficiencies in a group. I mean, wouldn't you want to do that? That's an opportunity for a benefits technology, and what I want to talk to you about here today. So as we jump right in, I want to tell you a little bit about my background, where I was in my last role before PES gave me a great opportunity. So I walked into a situation, and I need to explain this. So some of you on this webinar, maybe you've never spoken to an employer of a large group. Maybe your niche is in small groups, but you're thinking about large groups. So I want to share this story because it's something you're going to hear many, many times from similar employers. So when I had the role of CEO, I walked into a situation where the benefits technology seemed to be a problem. There were lots of errors. They couldn't keep track of a number of things. Data was being lost. There was a lot of confusion. And it was hard keeping track of various documents within HR, even employee files. There wasn't one concise place. The reason for that, before I got there, they chose a technology platform where they weren't getting support. They would reach out and submit tickets, and it would literally take several months to get tickets. I submitted at least 4 tickets through the course of my time there in that role, and never received a response back from any of the tickets submitted. So why am I sharing this story? It is so important that you choose not just the right benefit solution, but also the right benefit partner. That is a big part of finding that solution and being that value add to those groups you're working with, because you do have that opportunity of being a solutionist. You do have that opportunity of being that person who can relieve many pain points that HR has as well. So we're going to talk about those today. I was very frustrated as CEO, not knowing what was going on, trying to understand the technology, but we didn't have anybody there appropriately trained, and they didn't offer training for us either. So many employers are in that same role today. And I decided to bring in a professional who was going to be the chief technology officer, and his primary job is going to be to figure out what was going on. And before we end today's webinar, I will tell you the end of that story, but we're going to jump right in with our webinar here today. So what are our objectives? These are my objectives for everyone who's watching this, whether you're seeing this live or the recording later. I want you to understand that not all technology vendors or platforms are created equal. Many people have fears around technology. They've got a lot of concerns with technology. And the first thing is just understanding that they are not all created equal, and there's reasons for that. And we're going to get into that here today. Also, understanding the best practices in choosing a vendor and the platform. So those two are two different important areas. As you can imagine, you could have a very great person to work with. Oh, they could be a fantastic business partner, but if they don't have the right understanding or the right technology, that doesn't mean it's going to be a successful solution. We're going to talk about some things to better understand that, so that you can bring those to the table and you can be seen as the expert solutionist, the excellent advisor to that group. Also, understanding what's the best enrollment experience, because this is going to ultimately impact the employees. And again, you want to come out as a rock star when you're working with that employer and be shown and manifested as a solutionist for everyone involved, not just the employer, but also the individual employees. So also the last point here is to understand what to look for in ongoing support and client satisfaction. In my own story that I started this webinar with, support is huge when it comes to benefits technology. And while many employers out there, many in central Pennsylvania and across the country, have their own license and are managing it themselves, I'm going to explain the benefit of having that vendor actually manage it as well for those situations where that is the best option. So with that, that's where we're headed today. And I hope you enjoy this process. I love questions. So as you have a question, please submit it in the chat. We will have time at the very end to address those questions. And let me just explain right out of the gate that I am the Director of Business Development. I am not the technology officer. So if I cannot answer your question today, I will get back to you all later on following this webinar. So why use a benefit technology partner to enroll a large group? I think it's very interesting, the fears and the concern that employers have out there. And you who have talked to larger groups, I'm sure you've heard many more reasons than I am aware of from my seat, but only 22% of businesses are currently using benefit technology in the most efficient manner. So think about that. You have the opportunity to position yourself to be part of a rare group. So you could be that part with 78% not doing that appropriately, 22% is using it effectively. That's very small percentage out there that is leveraging this, and you can do this yourself for those groups that are out there. Again, different technology can go down to different size groups. So I'm speaking today of, let's say, groups of 75 on up. Again, depending on the platform, you may need to have a larger size group, but I'm talking for employer groups of 75 employees or more. Reducing human errors. So you can just imagine the more hands that are reaching into the cookie jar, your chances are going to increase in creating those errors. I saw firsthand when I was CEO what was happening when we had literally 25 people entering data, 25 people doing it different ways sometimes, and that process needed to be changed because that was a large part of the erroneous procedure. So reducing human errors is a big part. It can be a big solution when you speak to clients and you talk to even prospects about using benefit technology, how reducing human errors can be a big part of that right out of the gate. The second part is compliance. And also when it comes to reporting, you have one place to keep everything. You have one system. And also as employees enter that data, it reduces the errors in that process and it gets you better reports as well because it's coming from a secure place as well as it's minimizing the errors along the way. Increasing productivity. I mean, some of these all thread together, but it makes a lot of sense. If you have fewer people entering the data, if you have a system in place, it's going to increase productivity. And also automation. Many of these platforms can integrate with other solutions so that you can streamline the process by them being integrated as data gets entered. You can have it go across all those different platforms that you need, as well as receive that data from other places. I'll be referring to EDIs. Those of you who may not know what that is, I'll be talking about those, how it integrates with carriers, and how all that data from the carriers can get integrated in one location so you have it all in one place. And many times this can also be a mobile application as well, both for management and for the employees when it comes for enrollment. So increased productivity, access for enrollment. They can do it on their own time of their availability rather than when they're working and taking them away from their jobs. Minimizing liability and cost, the cost of human errors. If there was a situation, and I'll just give a hypothetical one in where I was as CEO, imagine the error that could potentially be there if a member or if a person is a part of a plan, if they were told they were dropped from a plan erroneously, but yet they were never notified. So you had an error that went out that they were dropped of a plan, but yet they kept paying for the plan. Now you could have a person paying for a plan without coverage. That could be a major liability and a major concern for the company, not to mention a tragic situation potentially for that employee who may need to go and get medical attention. So minimizing liability and cost, as well as just making sure that everything is secure and protecting yourself moving forward. These are just a few, and I'm sure you could have others that you've experienced as well. Now we're going to talk about the employee's perspective. So an ease of experience. I talk to benefit advisors all over the mid-Atlantic states, and I hear from them with larger groups that they're still enrolling by hand. And it's a challenge sometimes with the forms. I'm working with a lot of groups and even transitioning them from Ease to Navigator, for example. And some of the ease and experience of going to Navigator, the process for enrolling them, they can do it from their phone. It's a better experience than just a face-to-face or trying to line that up. That can be a little bit cumbersome, trying to meet with every individual face-to-face, and it just creates a better experience overall for the individual employees. It also allows more informed benefit choices. So a big part of benefits is education, and I want to be clear when I say this, education year-round. Many times when you work with a benefit technology partner, they will also support you, just like PES would do. They will support you year-round with education and understanding so that those benefits are understood, so that when they're needed, they can be utilized. I think we all understand that a lot of times when it comes to benefits, people don't know the benefits they have, and that's sometimes why they don't use those things that they already have access to. So it's more knowledgeable choices, and those choices are also right out of the gate. You're going to hear later some statistics, but I believe it's 51% of employees that were polled admitted that they spent more than $750 erroneously because they were not informed about the benefit choices right out of the gate. So the ability to have that understanding right from the very start, it can go a long way in that benefit information. Many of us on this webinar here today are a part of the benefits universe. So that's our space. Oftentimes we just need reminded that those employees are not a part of that universe. They're just good employees going to work, being faithful to their job, whatever they've been given to do. And to them, that whole benefit enrollment space could be annoying from their perspective. Let's just get it over with. So it's not just education. I want to be clear. It's about understanding. So more understanding to make those choices, as well as improved adoption and increased utilization after enrollment. I talked about that earlier, but that's a big part of it. So getting the knowledge, getting the understanding to make those choices so that when they need that care and that support, they have those available to them. Some benefit technology partners out there, like PES, will also provide a call center for you that could be a part of the benefit enrollment platform at no additional cost. I'm not going to go into numbers on this call, but if anybody wants to email me later or have questions about what that might look like, certainly I'll take that call. But just so an understanding, some platforms and some partners out there can include education as a part of this for you. So if you have a large group, if you have a number of different sites, let's say you had 6 different locations, you could have a technology partner at no additional cost actually go there on site and help with that enrollment process and actually help with that education right out of the gate. So my own enrollments at PES, I received a call that was 7 minutes long. It was the most basic understanding, and it was very simplistic for me to grasp and understand. That's a big part that goes with the technology for me to see on my phone and also hear it as well It made it a lot more simplistic and easier to understand. Last but not least, what about your perspective as an advisor? So why use benefit technology from your perspective? It's going to strengthen your brand as a consultative advisor. You know, I am friends with some of the leaders in our industry that coach advisors. And one, Ryan Miller, said to me that about 92% of advisors around the country don't advise. So if you are on this webinar, whether live or watching it later, and you want to actually be passionate about advising your clients, you are going to be in the minority, and that's going to help you gain and retain clients. So being able to speak knowledgeably, being able to show that you are a solutionist, being able to show that you can solve many, many challenges that they're dealing with currently can be a big part of your own brand as an advisor, helping to solve problems. Knowing that you're solving those problems is also going to help you. I don't know about everybody on this call, but for me as a solutionist, yes, I enjoy the revenue I make. Yes, I love the wins in selling, but nothing is more pleasing to me knowing I made a difference in the lives of that, whether it's the employer, whether it's the advisor, and even the employees getting a better experience and getting better access to better care. So that is a big win for me. So knowing you are solving multiple problems can help you, in some cases like me, just sleep better at night knowing you're helping people out. Improving your trust with the employer. People buy from people that they like and trust and that they have similarities with. You might have all the similarities of the people you're prospecting, but being able to build that trust and to show them solutions can go a long way. Many times advisors will not show people solutions, as I already shared earlier. So you can be the anomaly that's going to look out for their best interest in a wide range of solutions just by this form of technology. Also manifesting that you are staying relevant with simple, flexible, and personal technology solutions. I think we all would agree when it comes to technology, many times we wouldn't use those three words: simple, flexible, and personal. Those actually are the three words we use at PES. And I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to sell anyone here today. There are other providers out there. So it takes time to understand and to vet those providers to find those types of solutions and partners. It's going to help you with your relationship with that employer. And it's going to help you as well moving forward with the group. So planning for success. At this time, we're just going to take a pause, and I'm going to ask Elise if she would. We're going to have a poll, and we'll see where our awareness is in the world when it comes to technology solutions with benefits.
I'm going to go ahead and start the poll. So here we go. Can people see it? Doesn't look like they can.
Can they see it?
I'm not sure.
I think they can. Maybe. Well.
Yep, people are answering it.
Or was that just me that answered it? I'm not sure, but we'll give it a shot. If you see that, just feel free. Again, that's anonymous. I'm not going to be able to see.
Courtney said you can see it. So
okay, perfect.
Just give it a few more minutes or a couple seconds.
Okay. We'll give that a couple of seconds. Again, I would just be looking at an understanding and overall perspective of who's looking at this today. We're going to talk about planning for success. And that's a big part of this whole realm of benefit technology, of understanding and digging into it from the employer perspective, as well as the vendor and the actual platform that you're going to be looking at. So we're going to give it a couple more seconds here. Everybody should have it. And there we go. So it looks like a wide range. I can't see the results, but it looks like we have.
It looks like half of them are B and C, so somewhat knowledgeable, but a lot to learn, and some are very comfortable with this solution.
Excellent.
Nobody's an expert, and one person says they have no clue.
That's excellent. Well, just to be clear, I am not the one that said I have no clue, so you can have confidence in where we're going to proceed from here. So again, I thank everyone for their honesty, and we all can be learners when it comes to technology. It's always changing, and I really love providing these types of solutions because of what they bring to the table with advisors, with employers, and also the individual employees. So we're going to talk about planning for success and a couple of these strategies. So whenever you meet with the group, so I get asked this question many times when I talk to advisors who say, I'm prospecting this group, and I'll give you a real world scenario. Last week, I had an advisor reach out to me in central Pennsylvania, and she said, John, I'm looking at a group of about 150 employees. I've never worked with technology before. I'd like to just ask them some questions and get some understanding before I bring you to the table. What are some questions that I could ask for my own understanding? So I'm going to flip the coin around and say, this is what I would encourage all of you to talk about. And again, there could be some other questions. And if any of you do have those opportunities, I'd be glad to help you in that process to get even a larger list perhaps. But this is a great starting point. Understanding is everything when it comes to the group for providing technology solutions. So what's the demographic of the group? What do I mean by that? Where do these people live? What do they do in their actual jobs? Are these people out in the field? Are they in construction? Are they on top of roofs? Are they using heavy equipment? Are they truck drivers? Those are a big part of the equation and understanding what their access is to technology. Where do they do what they do is a big part of it as well, to understanding that. So also the understanding of what technology they may be currently using. And I want to say what effective technology, because many people are not using it effectively. And again, I want to refer to that number I used. Only 22% of the businesses out there are effectively using technology. So 78% of them are not. So if you're working with a group that is looking at technology or they have technology, chances are you can provide a better solution or provide a better efficient manner of that technology as you talk to them. So understanding the demographics, understanding what they've been using with technology, and understanding the technological capabilities of the employees. Why do I say that? At PES, we cover two very large unions in New York City, and believe it or not, most of them do not have cell phones. So imagine us trying to have an enrollment with just a mobile solution. That's not going to work. So we actually were boots on the ground, integrated with the technology solution for HR, and actually had a manual version with the technology to do it that way, so that they could keep everything in one place. And there was it was a little bit of a challenge from what we typically do, but again, it's providing that solution. So understanding the demographics of the group, understanding if there's an outside payroll vendor, if there is one that they're working with, it can oftentimes, depending on your platform, be integrated. So finding out that information, who their payroll is with, how many carriers are involved, all of these individual things will affect the EDIs, which are if you don't know what they are the lines of communication that get communicated from the carrier back and forth from the platform by which the data is stored. So that information, when that gets integrated and when that gets set up, that affects the overall cost for the platform and the overall group. That gets divided out by the number of employees, oftentimes per employees per month. So understanding those things, understanding how many carriers would be involved, do they want ACA management, compliance, and reporting? Many times in choosing those platforms, that information is a big part of the background as well. So that will help you in the process of working with that vendor to choose the best platform, because not every platform or partner for that matter is ideal for your prospect. So understanding that information, those are some good questions to start with. And when it comes to the actual group. Also, how long does implementation take? So if one of you were to call me hypothetically this afternoon and say, well, I've got a prospect, we'd like to move them from Ease to Navigator because that is a thing right now with Ease being phased out. There is that need of a solution. So we're doing that many times, and I could tell people right out of the gate, it's something that we typically take 6 weeks on from the time you decide. Now, that 6 weeks is something that we would want to work with on. Is that open enrollment, or is that in the middle of the year or outside of the enrollment time? So understanding implementation, asking that vendor how long that would take, And will they work with you within that group outside of open enrollment, and what that will look like laid out for you? What does customer support look like? I shared my own personal story of where I was as a CEO. And although they said they had customer support, their method was submitting a ticket because we were managing it. We didn't choose to use them as a manager of the account. We had our own license. So many times this happens that I've seen across the country is employers will have someone in-house who is managing the license, managing the platform, and working with that vendor. What's that customer service going to look like? What would that look like if you were managing that account? So in some cases, if you have the appropriate IT department, that can be the best solution. But many times you don't have a person who is skilled with that platform or appropriately trained. And the better option is to let the vendor do the management of that. So what will that look like? If you're going to manage that technology, what's that going to look like when we have questions and we need to add employees? Understanding that can go a long way. So vet them with others as well. Ask them about their reputation. So just because it may have 4 or 5 stars or you saw something on a website doesn't necessarily mean that's the case or will be the case for your experience. So asking them, have you worked with groups in this industry? How have you rolled out based off of those demographics we spoke about earlier? That's why we have that as one of the first discoveries. Once you have that knowledge of the group, you can take that to the vendor and say, okay, here's the type of group I'm looking with. What's that going to look like based off of this unique experience? Because they are. Every case is unique for those who offer you the best solutions. Also, what does the ROI look like? And do they have case studies? So ask a lot of questions. It pays to ask those on the front end as opposed to experience the challenges on the back end. So many times these vendors will have white papers, they'll have case studies for you, and they can show you cases. I mean, if you were to ask me today, I could show you some case studies. So all those things leading up to that last question will determine the cost. So most times there isn't just a flat number. Here's what the overall price would be. There needs to be an understanding of the group and also what type of support the group would need moving forward, as well as education as well. So discovering the vendor is a big part of the process, not just the platform. But that's where we're headed now, is the platform. So will this be an agnostic solution? Many times there are solution providers out there that is going to be a cookie cutter solution. So they will tell you what voluntary benefits can be placed on there, and they will not allow you to use other voluntary benefits. I'm not going to say that that's never the solution. In some cases, that is. Here at PES, we are agnostic, so we don't offer any specific voluntary benefits. We work with them all. So we prefer to be a solution provider from the standpoint of whatever is best for the group. We will work with that advisor so that they can bring those to the table on the platform as well. That can be very huge for your experience as well, based off the needs of the group, rather than just getting something that may be included or free through one of the carriers. Will the platform address HR functions? I talked about that earlier. There are a lot of HR challenges that they're dealing with, and many times HR people, as you are well aware, are feeling overwhelmed. So you have the opportunity to address a lot of those challenges, and I'm going to list them for you before we move to other slides. But that is a big part of you being perceived as a solutionist. Can this integrate seamlessly with other systems? That's how efficiencies happen and increase with productivity. Can this system support the employees in their entire life cycle, from the day they were hired to the day they retire, and all those changes along the way, their trainings, right? Their time, their attendance, their vacation, all those things, time off. Does it offer mobile access for all? That can be huge in enrollment, and also updates and reminders for policy changes. Is it customizable? These are the questions you need to ask when looking for the best solution. And think about this when you're choosing that platform. You have the availability and the opportunity for providing benefits management. And think about these. If you'd like to write them down, please, I'll speak even a little slower. Benefits management you can bring to the table. Helping with the employee's overall records. You can help with recruitment with the right platform, compensation and performance, scheduling, tracking, attendance, compliance, trainings. Think about all these things in the world of HR, as many times people in HR do feel overwhelmed. You can help be the solutionist here, updating employees on policy and also professional development. And at the end, again, if I spoke too quickly, Elise can pass this on, the entire deck on for everyone to benefit from getting this list and also being reminded of these benefits as well. But when it comes to the discovery and the platform, you are actually relieving a lot of burden off of HR in that process. So this is something that many times they're having to do manually. And oftentimes, if you choose the best platform, it can be automated and also seamlessly working with other solutions. Now we're at the part of implementation. So setting those expectations or reaching KPIs. I am not mentioning any competitors on this call, nor will I at any point in time. But one of the complaints that I've heard from a number of advisors around the country is they've worked with some technology solution providers where they've never met the KPIs and never met the deadlines that they were told they were going to meet. They weren't sure who they were supposed to work with because when they reached out to that person, they didn't get an appropriate response in an appropriate time frame. So I want to be very clear when I talk about implementation. Communication is the key. So finding that partner that's going to work with you, yes, but also that's going to communicate with you, because silence also communicates, and it very rarely is a good thing, right? When you've got a question, you've asked the question for the solution provider, and there's no response, where days have gone by, in some case, weeks have gone by, or even in a more challenging situation, weeks have gone past that deadline for the platform to be launched, right? So you can imagine that. So implementation, understanding you're all on the same page and asking that beforehand, what's that going to look like, can make your implementation process a better experience for everyone. So understanding your deadline for enrollment, and allow yourself 2 extra weeks and then plan and host meetings to discuss that. So again, I'm talking about figuring out what's the drop dead date that it has to be ready to go, and then give yourself 2 weeks back from that date. And then whatever the technology provider says, if it's Navigator, like for PES, we would say it typically takes 6 weeks. So now you're looking at 8 weeks up until that time. And now we factor in, to be very clear, a time for testing, for a time of development. So making sure that's in place and that it's all written out and laid out, that you can be on the same page, is huge for that success in implementation. Gathering the data together, so you have the understanding, will be a need for a microsite. This is a specific website for people to enroll. Understanding this as well, like I talked about with the unions in New York City, you may have a situation where they will need to have people be physically enrolling on site. Maybe you would want individuals to be able to explain this, and on-site counselors to walk people through. Some providers out there, like PES, we can provide licensed counselors that can walk people through the process on calls, face-to-face. So understanding what needs to be implemented is going to be a big part of that process. So will there be face-to-face options? Will it be over the phone? Will it be on Zoom or another solution like that? Is a big part of understanding that, communicating that as a part of your planning process for the best overall experience. Not every vendor does these things. So understanding them so you can be the one to say these things need to be in place as we reverse engineer it from the drop dead date and working our way back. Design and testing, are they going to have that time period there? Training and education, not just for everyone who's going to be enrolling, but also for the management. So for the HR that's going to be using it, for those that are involved in payroll, whoever that may be. And again, the implementation. So let's let the selections begin, right? So when you get to all those pieces along the way, now you're finally at the part where people can enroll into those benefits. It's a big part of everyone's experience and overall success. This takes us to open enrollment. Leveraging all the mediums of communication and the week during this time. So many times people think, well, I really don't have the means, I don't have the technology. They think about using a technology source. What do we have to do? Is it going to be an additional expense? Many times there is not an additional expense. You already have the tools in place with that company. So understanding not only what technology they have, but what technology have they used in the past to be the most effective form of communication? Maybe for some groups, it's still flyers. We have some groups where they prefer that over any other form of communication, but we use all of them. So working with the right vendor can help you even send out mailings. They can send out electronic reminders. They can send out text messages. There can even be phone calls left so that it's actually a live person. It's not an automated system. It's a live person that could be leaving that voice message or talking to that person live, reminding them about that. They need to enroll. They need to select something or they will not be included. However that process is determined, that can be supported with that provider. Also understanding that availability or that ability to use face-to-face, that can be a big part of it and understanding. Think about this. If most people, and that is the reality, if most people don't understand benefits, I believe the number, it's well over 50% don't understand their benefits, and 76% just get frustrated about the idea. This is an area of a huge opportunity for understanding. So whatever your open enrollment process is, making sure you have a system in place and a method of procedures so that people can understand them. Again, because of that data and that statistic there in the bottom line, 55% of employees admit to wasting $750 because of their own errors in the enrollment process. So you have the opportunity of being a solutionist there as well, down to the individual, simply by educating in many senses of this. And I know that most people on this call will probably not be a marketer, but that's really what you are through this time. About the time you're getting tired of that message, everyone else is finally getting it. So I want to encourage everyone. Repetition goes a long way. So using all of these things, when I speak about them, I'm not talking about just sending out a text message or, oh, we sent that out with an email, but making sure and giving a pulse, finding out the pulse of the employee population and just randomly ask some employees. Think about that as an advisor. Think about the employer. If you ask permission, can I talk to some employees and just get their pulse, what their experience is like during this open enrollment? Who has done that as an advisor? Now you will be seen as a person who also cares about that employee population, and it's going to be a better experience as well, finding out what works the best and leveraging that for everyone as well through open enrollment. So ongoing support. So you've gone through the process of discovery, you've gone through the process of even implementation, and now you've had open enrollment. Now what's going to happen after people are enrolled? So understanding what type of ongoing support is huge. There are many providers out there, and I'm not going to mention any of them, that all they seem to care about is just selling a solution. They really aren't passionate about support. So understanding what type of support you're going to get, and then you as an advisor developing a year-round marketing strategy that's going to help them understand what's involved with their benefits, and also working with that provider. Many times, if you talk to that vendor, they will work with you. Some of them will charge you extra. Some will include it as part of the rollout. And again, that may depend on the size of the group and what plan you go with or what platform. But many of them will work with you to help you support that employee population with year-round training and year-round education. That can be very beneficial. So having that from an advisor standpoint and an employer and HR standpoint, knowing you can have that vendor work with you in that year-round support of education can go a long way with your overall experience. What type of support are you going to have as well through the technology? Is there a call center included? Will they talk to a live person? Are these people licensed? Will they have an understanding of those specific plans? All these things are very valuable to understanding the technology, because these things could be included. And just like when it comes to the employee not understanding their own health benefits, you as advisors need to understand the benefits of working with the right benefit technology partner, because these could be resources you could use in some cases at no additional cost. Will there be a mobile app for your benefits all in one place so they can access them? These can be included sometimes. What about a dedicated tech specialist to help any technical questions that come up? I shared from my own personal experience of submitting tickets and then not hearing anything. So being able to talk to people live, being able to have that customer service, and what is the average response rate? Ask those questions before going into that process so that when you're enrolled and when you've gone through the entire process, you'll know what to expect, and it will create a better experience ongoing, not just for the employees, not just for the advisors, but also for the employer as well. So before we get to questions and answers, hopefully I have some answers if there's any questions. I just wanted to tell you the rest of the story of when I was in Florida, and it's very similar to many employers around the country. So I brought in an expert who had all the certifications and papers, and he was working on the technology platform until I got this opportunity from PES. This was back in last October. And the last I spoke to him last week, he has finally figured out the root of the problem is the technology platform itself. That the one was chosen wasn't appropriate for the size of the group, and they've actually maxed out its capabilities, and it's no longer the right solution. But because of the fear factor with the decision makers, there's a hesitancy in looking at a solution. So that's an opportunity for another solution provider. I'm no longer associated there, and because of the integration of what their future, I can't be a solution provider to them. But that's a classic example of there are many businesses out there that aren't effectively using technology. They may have technology, but they're not using it effectively, and it can allow you an opportunity to gain and retain new clients. So that actually is our presentation. I have that open for questions. If you have any, or if you'd like to email me, you can do that as well. Any questions today?
Not one person has put any in the Q&A section. They're probably just all waiting to email you separately is what's happening. I'm sure I'll probably get a few questions, and I'll probably just reply and CC you if they're not already at you. But thank you for this, John. This, again, everybody, this is part 1 of 4 parts. So please stay tuned. Check it out on the upcoming training and webinars that will come from URL. So yeah, I just want to thank you again.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope it was helpful, and hopefully it helps everyone gain and retain new clients.
Thanks again, John. I hope everybody has a good day.
Have a great day, everyone.